In the present day, the Nordschleife is hailed as one of the most challenging circuits in motor racing, a ribbon of tarmac twisting through the Eiffel forests, feared and adored by drivers and sim racers alike. It was banned in Formula One for being too dangerous, but in 1957 it was the home of the German Grand Prix, and the scene of a legendary drive by one of the sport's most celebrated champions, a race often cited as the greatest of all time. This is the Forgotten Lap.
Coming up from the north bend and Fangio's challenging for second.
Deep in Germany's Eifel region, 1920, enveloped in volcanic hills, thick forests, and weather that can turn on a coin, the idea of Nurburgring was beginning to take shape. The vision, a national showcase for engineering and a proving ground for man and machine. Construction began in 1925 and just 2 years later it opened, a 28-kilometre complex of loops including the 22.8-kilometre Nordschleife, or the North Loop in English. The first races ran in June 1927 and so began the Nürburgring legend. By the 1950s, Formula One's German Grand Prix on the Nordschleife was more than just another race. It was an ordeal. 22 laps, over 500 kilometers, blind crests, off-camber corners and endless elevation changes through the trees. Arriving at the ring in 1957, Juan Manuel Fangio was already a four-time world champion, hunting for a fifth. He drove the iconic Maserati 250F, light, responsive and perfectly suited to the circuit's flowing rhythm. And he had the points cushion to clinch the title with a win here. The opposition, Ferrari's Mike Hawthorn and Peter Collins, fast and fearless. The stage was set for a duel of philosophies as much as drivers. Qualifying was good to Fangio and he landed on pole for race day with Hawthorn alongside. When the flag fell, the Ferraris got the jump, with Hawthorn ahead and Collins close, Fangio stalking in third. He began reeling them in though, and by lap 3 the Master had retaken the lead. But Fangio wasn't just racing the Ferraris, he was racing strategy. In practice he stated that the car wasn't quite behaving as they wanted it to, so they opted for a softer Pirelli tyre and started with a half tank of fuel. Fast, but thirsty, committing to a mid-race stop. Up to the halfway point the race had gone mostly to plan, with Fangio leading most of the way. At mid-distance, Fangio dives into the pits for his scheduled pit stop. What should have been 30 seconds, however, turned into an eternity. Refueling, rear tyres, a fumbled wheel nut, the stop ballooned to roughly 52 seconds. He rejoined the race almost a minute behind the two Ferraris, which were on a zero-stop strategy, opting to go the long haul right to the end. Things went from bad to worse. With 10 laps left and 50 seconds to regain on his opponents, the gap wasn't shrinking. The race felt lost. But then, something just clicked. Fangio began to do things he had never done before, stretching the limits of his Maserati. He was quoted as saying, "If in one turn I was using second gear, then I went into third. When it was third, I used fourth. Much more risk, much less safe, but faster." Fangio absolutely shattered the lap record. Not once, but again and again, 9 times in the final phase, 7 of them consecutively. With each lap, he moved beyond the boundaries of what was considered possible. As El Maestro closed in, Ferrari's pit frantically urged Hawthorn and Collins to push, but the deficit was dissolving. Lap by lap, the Maserati 250F carved time from the forest. By lap 20, Fangio set a 9-minute 17.4 lap, an almost absurd circuit record, and arrived on the leader's tail. He dived past Peter Collins, then through the trees towards Breitscheid. He swept by Mike Hawthorn. The comeback was almost complete. After 3 hours, 30 minutes and 38.3 seconds, Fangio took the flag by only 3.6 seconds. His 24th and his final Grand Prix victory, and the win that sealed his 5th World Championship. It was the drive of a legend. Juan Manuel Fangio wasn't a showman. He rarely battered a car unless he really had to. That's how he survived an era that took so many of his peers. But on the 4th of August 1957, he reached for everything, and somehow he found more. He later said, "I have never driven that quickly before in my life, and I don't think I will ever be able to do it again." Following the race, Fangio didn't sleep for 2 whole days, replaying the risks he took at the Nordschleife. The Nurburgring, the green hell, finally felt mastered.